Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Damage Control episode
53.
53. This is a good topic because, there's always questions about these things that we're going to be talking about today. And there's a lot of confusion as to who does what by when. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the impact of these items and the deadlines, etc. Anthony, introduce yourself.
What's going on, guys? Anthony Angelillo, branch manager over here with Paramount Residential Mortgage Group, CEO, founder of Tag Team Nation marketing company, and co-host of Damage Control, man. Co-host of Damage Control, DC Consultants partner. Melinda and I have a lot of things that we're cooking up for everybody, the community, Damage Control. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned is right.
Got a lot of big things coming out, man. I'm pumped for today's episode. So
Anthony's been coding secretly in the background for a few days, so you guys are up for some treats.
I need a shave and everything, man. It's been bad.
Surprised you're so scruffy today for the camera. Usually you go to the hairdresser, you go get your hair cut before the show.
Tomorrow.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Hi, I'm Melinda Grimaldi, real estate and title attorney, Grimaldi Law Firm, the Closers Title Insurance Company, and Damage Control co-host. I'm excited. I feel like there's a pivot happening right now, but in a good way, at least for a lot of people that I know. So we're going to do some good stuff, Anthony. I feel like there's some good stuff coming. I have a new ring light. I'm ready to rock and roll. And I'm
lighting looks great, man. Lighting looks amazing.
My ring light is like this big behind my camera, because when I moved offices, I needed to, I don't have the huge window anymore. Yeah. And so I needed more lighting because, this is a serious show. We can't be screwing around with bad lighting, But I'm very happy to have with us here today, Luis. He's with TruView Inspections. Pretty much every event that my company sponsors, his company is sponsoring. So you can't ignore a company that's just everywhere, right? So and then following him a little bit on social media, I got to see what he was doing, how he's educating agents and working to make the community and the industry a better place. So we wanted to have him on the show and share some of his tips, tricks, knowledge in his brain and with our community. So thank you so much, Luis, for joining us. And why don't you give a little bit more, give yourself a proper intro.
Yes. So thank you, Melissa and Anthony and the Damage Control
Melinda.
team.
It's okay. It's okay. It's
hey,
Melinda.
We called you Luigi, man.
Well,
it's Melinda with a D. It happens a lot. Don't let it happen again, okay?
Yeah, I'm confused because I thought I said it wrong. So I'm totally naive to the situation. So I'm very sorry. But a lot of people do say Louise instead of Louis. So I guess, well, anyways, my name's Louis and I'm the owner of TruView Inspections. And I'm very excited to be here on this live today and be able to discuss just some great information. I know that I'm very passionate about just bringing a lot of knowledge to the real estate industry about the inspections, just because a lot of times agents think that the inspectors are deal killers, that it's boring, it's not a good subject, but even if it's boring or it's not a good subject, it's an important subject because it's part of the transaction.
A crucial part
in the transaction, correct. So I'm just very passionate to talk about it and just bring knowledge because I feel like if agents know more, we could be able to serve them better.
Absolutely. I love that, right? Knowledge is key, and open communication with your vendors is important for a smooth process and good customer service for our clients. So with that being said, the today's full topics is inspections, appraisals, and timelines, right? So inspections, appraisals don't really overlap, but they're two times where the property is being reviewed and the condition of the property is being reviewed. So it's an important thing to look at, and both of them have deadlines and timelines that we need to be conscious of. So that's where I'll come in and talk about some deadlines, but we'll get started with the inspection. So, Louis, you said you're often referred to as deal killers in the inspection world, right? Because the reality is inspections can kill a deal. So but it's also about the expectations we give to clients, right? Of what the purpose of the appraisal's for. It's not to nickel and dime the seller, really. It's to understand the condition of the property, and if you want to proceed, because with the as-is contract that maybe 90% of our buyers are using, our realtors are using, there is no requirement for repairs. So it's really like, it's supposed to be a take it or leave it, just know what you're buying, right? Is what it is, but it's turned into another time to negotiate. So I don't know if you want to add to that as to what you're seeing as what people can like view inspections as like the purpose for those things.
Sure. I mean, it all depends on the situation that you're in, right? I've seen many in the past, right, prior to how this market is, people would use the inspection as a negotiation tactic. And I remember us going out to do an inspection and having buyers say, hey, we need you to find $10,000 worth of repairs here because we want to renegotiate the contract. But again, like now, the market is it's so hot. Like there's so much going on that sellers just don't care what's on the inspection report, right? However, there are some things that are important that if the seller doesn't deal with it at the point of the transaction, then it's at that point, they're going to deal with another buyer, and there are issues that would prevent them from obtaining insurance. So because if you're buying with a loan and you can't get insurance, then you can't really get the loan, and then you can't really buy the house. So even though there's no room for negotiations, it's the sellers would have to at some point give in to certain type of negotiations or certain repairs in order to help get the buyers insured.
Right.
Because they'll deal with the issue with the next buyers that come into
like electrical panels and things like that.
Correct. Yeah, there's a whole list of them. And the reality is that like what I've seen is the majority of the time, the things that prevent people from being able to get insurance or kill deals at properties are user error. It's the way that inspectors explain things and the way that inspectors report things.
Luis,
So hold on. I wonder if we're gonna have the same question. You go first.
Do you have a cheat sheet on what kills deals?
Absolutely. I definitely have a
Send that shit over.
So you said there's a list of things that can impact an insurance policy. We'd love to share with our subscriber. We'll be sharing your information, but of course, if you have a list of those things to look out for in an inspection that may cause a problem to get insured, we would love. That's a very powerful cheat sheet that we think would be very useful to our subscribers and to myself. Like, you know, at the end of the day, we all know a bit about each other's, areas of expertise. We have overlap in when they come into play, but I don't know about inspections in that way. I know that I can help negotiate them. I know that there's deadlines for them. I know that it has to be done. And I know that a buyer has to understand and accept what that is. But that, you know, I'm not looking at an inspection report to do the nitty gritty, except when I was purchasing my own, right?
Correct.
So it's important that we share even these things with each other. I learned from Anthony's cheat sheets all the time. I had them as a reference, so it's great. So yes, that was the same thing I was going to say, Anthony.
So great minds think alike. No, I honestly, I think a reference point of bullet points of what kills deals, what they're going to look at, like electrical panels, life expectancy of the roof, if it's caving in, code violations, bars on windows, like for HUD, and just breaking it down from programs, I will do wonders with that. If you can send that to me, I think everyone not necessarily even subscribe to us, everyone will eat that up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, man.
Sure. Yeah, we have we've done a lot of like videos on social media, on Instagram, where I breaking down like 10 of these points that would prevent them. And we also have like a presentation on YouTube, which is called the most known insurance deal killers and how to overcome them.
Love that. So send us the link for that. We'll share that with our subscribers.
And I'll send you definitely the presentation so you could have the bullet points to be able to serve your clients better.
Amazing.
So because if it gets by us, you guys are able to help them too.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Like, so you mentioned in this market's totally different. I will say inspections have very rarely killed a deal these days. We have other challenges with appraisals, and we'll talk about that because of everyone agreeing over appraised value, et cetera, not having the cash later to do it. But inspections really these days, it's more like I need to know what I'm buying, but like it took me 10 offers to get accepted. I'm not canceling if I take another 10 offers, So I think buyers are willing to accept a little bit more, But when we talked about inspections, like last year, for example, or whenever, like in a regular, more equalized market where it wasn't so dominant on the seller side and with the inventory and all, I think that we would always talk about, Anthony, about setting the expectations, right?
Yeah, it's all about expectations. I'm making calls to listing agents on a daily, I'd say 5 times a day. And the old day, man, that would get through the listing agent. Now it's even more challenging. And I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I'm pretty damn good at that. And I'm just, it's difficult. It's a different market. It will change. It will equal out. We'll see, we'll see. 33,000 people enter in Florida last month alone. I mean,
right. It's crazy. Luis, what would you say is the purpose of an inspection?
The purpose of an inspection is to make an informative decision on the purchase of the property that you're going to buy. Because for most people, purchasing a property is the biggest investment they're going to make in their life.
Yeah.
So you have to go in there. And I always say, like at TruView, we believe that your investment is only as good as your inspection. And you at least need to know what you're getting yourself into, because while there is no room for negotiations that say per se, right, on your contract, still as the buyer, you want to make sure you're not getting in over your head. Yeah. Because if you're buying a home for $600,000 and you're capping yourself out with all your money, this is your savings, this is everything that you work for in your life, and then you walk into a home that needs a new roof, that needs a new plumbing system, that has major issues, you might not be able to have the funds to fix these components once you move in. And then you could, find yourself in a position where
the asset turns into a liability at that point, is what
correct.
You're saying. Yeah.
And to at least have a good generalized understanding of what I got going here in this house. And guess what? If it's good, if you could deal with it, you proceed. And then if you can't handle it, that inspection report gives you the option to back out of your contract legally if you needed to within your contingency period.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a really good question that, from one of our viewers that is watching live. What do you think about using the regular FAR contract versus the as is? I've seen agents requiring that form of contract and then putting zeros for the limit. So it really depends on what side of the fence you're on and the type of property you're dealing with. So with the regular, I would say generally speaking, I prefer the as is contract because it leaves more flexibility for the buyers if we're talking about the buyers. On the seller side, the regular FAR contract has required repairs, right? You will repair up until this amount or this percentage on the property for pests or, WDO or termites. And then there's another category for open expired permits. So there's 3 categories where things that come up repairs, and there's a cap on how much the seller needs to spend. Where I see this contract the most useful is when you have a property that has a lot of problems, and requiring that contract holds your buyer in, requires your seller to pay, but doesn't allow for a scared buyer to walk away, knowing the seller is going to pay for certain things, and we're gonna meet in the middle with this property. So I've seen it successful in those scenarios. It's not a good idea to zero out those categories and agree to that on the buyer side, because the buyer doesn't have the right to cancel in the regular FAR contract unless the seller doesn't make the repairs or the repairs are higher than the price. Like there's a whole calculation in there as to why. So you don't necessarily just have the outright. So if you zero it out, I don't know if there's any case law or precedence as to what would happen in that scenario if you zero it out. But I would say you're putting your buyer in a very tricky scenario, because if there is a big problem and then it's zeroed out that the seller's not paying for any repairs or permit problems, then you're kind of in a bind with your buyer if they don't want to proceed. So be very careful with that. I
get why they're doing that, obviously, because people are waiving inspections at that point. So you're not looking aggressive in a market that's a frenzy right now. But you're at that point you're compromising your buyer at that. I wouldn't agree with that. I wouldn't do 0.
If I was a listing agent right now to eliminate my things, it's almost like get the inspection up front, put it in the MLS. This is the property, take it or leave it. 0, and that's it, and move on. There's also that strategy there, and you save a lot of time, and you get your close date much faster. I would think.
But you know what? Like I have to say in that regards, like you can't really waive an inspection period because if the buyers are buying with a loan, they're going to need a property insurance to cover hazards, and they're going to need windstorm insurance. And for both of those insurances, you need a 4-point inspection and a wind mitigation. Yeah. So even so, something could be presented at the property where if you're just doing a 4-point inspection, it could have a Challenger panel or a Federal Pacific panel. You can't get insurance, and now what? So it's like you can't really waive the inspection period.
Right. You what you're waiving is your right to cancel, right? But then you're saying there, if you can't get insured, your loan will get denied. But there's a fine line as to it really has to be just for the insurance. So then you waive it for everything else is basically what
they're doing is the bottom line is they don't want to give any lender credit or seller concession back. So you're right, Melinda, if I'm a listing agent, just put the damn thing on the MLS. Look, we're not giving any seller's concession as is, take it or leave it. Instead of saying, all right, we want to waive the inspection because the seller doesn't want to give a concession. Like, what are the games, man? Just be more direct. That's me.
Luis, if a listing agent were to call you and say, we want to report here, would you be able to certify it to the buyer, whoever ends up making the offer, like in a couple weeks, or how does that work?
Sure. So we could always do what they call as a pre-listing inspection. It's an inspection before you list a property that gives you the condition, and sellers can make a decision whether to report, to fix, whatever they need to do. And in the event that you have new buyers, then with the seller's consent, you could transfer the report over to the new buyers. However, that's going to be dated back to the day when the inspection was originally done.
Of course. So there's that to take into account. But nowadays there's offers coming in. Like if you time it right, it might just be a few days delay. It all depends on what the buyer is willing to do, of course. And then no matter what, you still need the 4-point and the wind mit for your insurance if it's a home. So I've been hearing a lot of lately, Anthony, I think I spoke to you about it, that like buildings, like condo buildings, to get insurance. Have you seen this, Luis, about getting the 4-point wind mit on the building because they can't get insurance on the unit?
No,
it doesn't make any sense. And I've even done videos contradicting that. And I even called Citizens Insurance myself. And I spoke to a representative on the line. It took me like 2 hours to get to like an actual underwriter because I'm not an insurance agent.
Right.
And they confirmed that for condo, you don't need a 4-point inspection. You do need a mitigation. You need a mitigation of the unit because it basically what you're trying to report is the opening protection credit for the unit and the reinforced concrete. So that gives credit to the clients on their windstorm policy. But the thing is that the 4-point inspection is required only, and this information is on Citizens website, which they're the standard. It's required only for HO6, for HO3 policies, right? When you're purchasing a condo, you need an HO6 policy.
Yeah.
HO6 policy is walls in. So whether the piping system, et cetera, everything that's, when you purchase a condo, you're purchasing walls in. So none of that, you don't need the only reason you would need a 4-point inspection is if you're purchasing the wrong type of insurance for the condo, because it asks you a question. If you pull up a form, it says, let's say that you have a unit, it's a 20-story building and the unit's on the 3rd floor. It asks you a question like, how many years of life does a roof have? I don't know. It's 17 stories up. It doesn't matter to the unit. Are there any type of damage on the other side or decking as a result of roof leaks? I don't know. I don't have access to the unit on the 20th floor, right? So it just doesn't make sense.
What about townhouse governed under a condo association, HO6 or HO3?
Townhouse covered under, it depends if the condo association, if it's covered by the condo association, most condo associations cover the structural components of the property. So that's a question that it would have to be asked. If they do not cover structure, then you will need an HO3. And if they do cover structure, roofing, etc., then you only need the HO6.
Cheat sheet on that. We'll add that. That's why I asked that question. But that could have been the reason that they asked for that insurance.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of misconceptions too, and people are not sure. But there's been a lot of weird like requests lately. So I just wanted to like make sure and let everybody aware that's watching this live or later, repetitive what's needed and what's not. So don't order that. You know, most of the time agents are ordering the inspection for their clients or facilitating it. So make sure you're ordering the right type so that you're not over, you know, ordering a for, you know, on a building when it just needs to be the unit to be inspected and all. So that's good stuff. Anthony, does a lender ever need an inspection report?
Absolutely, man.
When do you need it?
If like he just said, if you need a windmill.
Well, for a windmill, but you don't really need to see the nitty gritty.
You don't need to see, you're not gonna submit that to the underwriter. I mean, that's only for insurance purposes.
Right.
But I've seen loan officers submit it to underwriters.
Right. That's where I'm getting to.
Here it is. What the hell are you doing? Structurally sound? It's not. There's a crack in the foundation. It's just bad stuff.
So the reason why I bring this up is specifically to talk about this point, because lenders do not need the actual report. Now, you might send it to them, it's fine. But if you're dealing with the wrong loan officer or wrong team, because sometimes we don't have control of who we're working with, and they submit that to the underwriter, you could be killing your deal. So as an agent, do not send the actual report to the loan officer. You're likely just setting the windmill 4 and that's because usually the lender is facilitating the insurance discussions to make sure that they have the right type of insurance they need for the loan. So another tip there, don't do it. Don't send it. Keep it amongst yourselves.
I actually have a situation that happened not too long ago where they actually sent the full home inspection, the wind mitigation, and the 4 to the lender. The lender went through the report and required a mold assessor to perform a mold assessment because there was some yellow staining on ceilings. Okay, that cost the client another $350. And then the lender required a general contractor to go to the home and certify the roof on their company letterhead. And that, I think the customer told me cost them like another $600 for a GC to do that. And it incurred another $1,000. And luckily, everything panned out well and they were able to close. But imagine if they didn't.
So you're just creating like, only give what's needed. Only give what's needed. If it's not needed, let's not open a can of worms. What is needed, from my understanding, is on certain types of loan is the WDO inspection, right, Anthony? For VA loans, you need to see that because that's part of the process.
Yeah. Too much information is, not good. You don't want to disclose all of your cards. It's unnecessary. It's almost like FHA requires one, bank statement. Everyone says it's two. It's not. It's one. All right. Conventionally, you need two bank statements. If you're disclosing too much information to the underwriter, you don't have control of your underwriter. They can't unsee what they see, right? So in this case, you don't need to do that. Now, I would say be proactive and look at the inspection. And if we talked about this last episode, if there's water stains on the ceiling, get the damn agent to paint it, okay? And they just fix the roof, because the appraiser that goes out there is going to notate that on the report. Now the underwriter is going to stip for that. Now you need a roof, sir. So if you're opening up a Pandora box, once again, back to basics, setting foundation, being upfront, doing your homework, being proactive, get your shit in order. I mean, that's
love it.
Bottom line.
You're already going into appraisals, but before we go in, so that's the same reason why you don't send the inspection report to the lender is the same reason why when you are getting a credit for something that happened during inspection period and you're writing it out, you don't say in the addendum, seller will credit buyer $1,000 because there's a problem on the roof, or because of the inspection, or because of this, or because of that. No, period. End of sentence. Seller shall credit buyer $1,000 at closing towards prepaids and closing costs.
Good.
Period. That's it. That's all. Because otherwise, an underwriter will say, why? What's wrong with the property? Let me see what's wrong with the property, right? We don't want that to happen. That's amongst you guys. You've agreeing to the conditions and you're going to fix it later, or like the repair addendums too. Anthony, you don't want to see repair addendums, right?
Dude, I've had addendums for selling furniture. I mean, this isn't a yard sale, man. We're buying a house. Don't show us that. Don't put that in any of the documentation on corporate email or any of that stuff.
Just keep it on the side.
It needs to be insurable. All right. An underwriter is a human being. They don't want to kill deals. They're trying to get things done. But if you put that in front of them, they have no choice. It's not insurable to Fannie or Freddie or Ginnie at that point. So you're putting them in a position, is what Melinda's saying.
Yes. So I want to pivot us to I want to convert us from one topic to the other in a way that combines the two. Anthony, what in an inspection report is a red flag for an appraisal? Is there something in there that that we would know, oh, look, there's this here, and it might be a problem also for the insurance. More than likely, there's a little bit of overlap there. But what is a red flag for property conditions? And I think we even have a cheat sheet done. If not, we will do it about what red flag property conditions are that we need to look for to know that it's going to get dinged by an appraiser.
That's a great cheat sheet. So there's a lot. I'm just going to wing it right now. You go FHA, you can't have bars on windows. Structurally sound, you can't have cracks in foundations. If there's termites or there's signs of termites, get a new panel, like change the damn panel for $300. If there's water stains, if there's not a gated around the pool, FHA wants a gate around the pool, cracks in windows, openings and screens. I mean, it goes on. Lead-based paint, on a certain, I think 68 or 75. I don't know. Yeah. So I mean, it just keeps on going and going. There is a list. We can get that list, but that is that list would help a buyer's agent out, because that's what the inspection company is doing at that point. And why have any of those not checked off prior to the appraiser? Guess what? Now you just costed your buyer another 150, 175, whatever the final inspection for the appraisal report costs. What are we doing? Be proactive about the situation. That's a good one. We should do that. We will.
Because, also, if as a listing agent, you should know what these property conditions are, because you need to make sure that you're setting your property up for success. Because no matter what, even if it's a seller's market, the reality is, I don't know what percentage of deals are with a loan, but I would say 75%, maybe Florida. Maybe if we compare Florida to the rest of the country, it's probably higher cash here than some of the other parts of the country, because Florida has international, cash buyers. They get their loans back home. They bring their cash here. Everyone with money comes here. So we have that extra layer. But no matter what, the majority of the buyers you're going to see coming to make offers on your property will have a loan.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you as a listing agent, to show your strength as a listing agent, to get more deals and show your value versus just loading it on the MLS, have the property reviewed for those items. Talk about those things with your seller. These are the things that an inspector, that an appraiser will ding the property for and require additional work. So if it was a problem and it was fixed and the rest of it's cosmetic, let's fix that little cosmetic, like you said, the $300 panel, or painting the ceiling after the roof was fixed. Let's not leave those problems. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that, but.
Well, that you save all of those headaches as the listing agent just by having a pre-listing inspection done, doing a pre-listing inspection. And then, because think about it. So now you're the listing agent, and now you go in there and you look around the house and you're trying to notice what the appraisal does, but the appraisal's trained to do appraisals and the inspector's trained to do inspections. Then you throw that liability on yourself, and then you tell your sellers, fix this, fix that, fix this. Then the appraiser comes and the appraisals find something else, and your sellers are going to look at you and say, didn't you tell me to fix this, this, and this? And then it was going to be fixed. No, it's better just have the inspector go in there, have the inspector do it, get the list, and then look at that list and see, okay, let's fix this, let's fix that. But at least somebody else went out there and found the issues. And at the end of the day, you're going to be more efficient by doing it
with a trained eye, right? Because we can go in and look at a property, and there's certain things that are super noticeable, right? And then there's certain things that with not having a trained eye for these things, you can very easily skip or not think it's very important. That I'm a perfect example. When I went looking to buy my house, I did see the stain. They replaced the roof. It was a year old. That stain was from before. I saw the stain though, because that's very obvious, right? The wet stain on one of the bedroom ceilings. But a lot of the other things, that's not my area of expertise. I'm not a handy woman where I can go and do these projects, right? So I wouldn't know, and most people fall within that boat, right? As agents, maybe you have a bit more experience because you're walking with inspectors and appraisers, but I wouldn't say you're very trained unless you're a handy person. What were you gonna say, Ant?
What I'm saying is you're bringing up a lot of things here. if I'm a listing agent, I would definitely do a pre-listing inspection. No questions asked, because when things happen at the 11th hour, you're to blame. The seller is going to go back to you and say, what the hell are you doing? You're never going to get another listing from that seller again. So the couple $100 that you're spending, I'd pay for the damn thing out of pocket. And I do the pre-listing inspection because all of the stuff that's going to be addressed, AC unit, not functional, FHA, that sucks. You're not going to be able to do anything there. All right. There's so many other things that go involved in HUD, what's governed under HUD, but that pre-listed inspection is going to address all of that. That's what Luis is saying. That is a no-brainer. Even if I'm a buyer's agent, I'd ask the listing agent, hey, was this done? Send me that report. Let me see, because then you're not going to go in a bidding war. If I'm a listing agent, I'm not going to want to look like I'm not doing my due diligence by, auditing, like looking at the house and making sure that it's kosher for the lender. You're going to just flop on your face. So that's important, man. Pre-listed inspection, how much does that cost?
I mean, it all depends. Every house is custom coded, but pre-listing inspections typically start at $295, depending on the property. Now, something that we've seen agents that are doing this, because agents are doing this a lot. Once they get the listing, they pay for the pre-listing inspection, or they have the seller pay for it, and then they say at closing, once we close, I'll reimburse you for the pre-listing inspection.
I was just thinking that if I was an agent, how would I play that? And that's exactly what I thought in my head. So I think that's a good move, because obviously, a seller can cancel a listing agreement or whatever. There's different reasons of why things, don't close, or you don't make your commission. But I think that's a really fair way to show value and still be covered.
So many things. The AC unit has to be functional. The pool needs to be shocked. That's another one, right? Got to be shocked. It's got to be functional. The pool pump's got to be functional. Correct. These are things that are killing deals left and right. And then you keep going back and forth. And there's multiple final inspections as an appraisal that you might be doing. So now you're up $300 for your buyer. And usually the lender's not going to pay for that. In this case, we would if that was the case. But that's crazy, man.
And you want to make the process as smooth as possible.
Yeah.
Because the least, what you want is for the appraiser to go in there to say, everything's okay, here's your appraisal. Not for the appraiser to walk in there and say, this is wrong, that's wrong. Now you just delayed the process, you delayed the closing, and people don't understand. They are going to blame you. They're going to blame the agent. They're going to blame the title company. They're going to blame everybody else but themselves, fortunately. So that's why we have to guide people.
I know, it's so true. That's a whole other show, but that's a whole other topic for another show. But I was when you're saying they're going to blame this, they're going to blame that, or there's this wrong. That's a good TikTok video, that everyone's doing those videos right now, like that. Anyway, it just reminded me of that. But yeah, definitely, at the end of the day, people do not remember who closed. They don't remember their lender. They don't remember their inspector. They remember their agent. And so if they have like these deals that fall through, the reality is already they don't remember. 70% of people don't remember who their agent was. But if you have a deal that dies, like it really falls on your lap. So you need to make sure you're using the right professionals. You're referring to your clients, of course, but being well-rounded as an agent to understand these different pieces so that you're guiding and setting the right expectations up front, right? It's always about at the end of the day, every show, we talk about expectations every show. Because that's really, if you go in right now, submitting offers for buyers without the right expectations, it's not going to happen. If you go in right now with a buyer with the wrong expectations about the inspection process and what they should be getting out of it, it's not going to happen. If you go in right now with the wrong expectations about rates, they're going to be pissed because rates are changing every day. Like you have to set it's right. I heard like they kind of went down a little bit, right, Anthony, recently? A little bit.
But they change 4 times a day. And I mean, it's like, you never know. And when someone sends out quotes a month old, that's, dude, you're selling yourself short, because
especially these days, right?
Awful. That's just bad service. You don't want to do that. Yeah. Because then they're going to come back and say, well, you sent me this on, in May. Well, dude, we're in June now, so
yeah, so much has changed. And I actually heard that there's some future hikes coming. I saw it in the news. I don't know. I never watched the news, but I saw something about rates.
Yeah, Fed rates up. Fed meeting yesterday. My production manager's in.
Yeah, rates up. Fed meeting yesterday.
The boat's sailing, man.
That's funny. Someone's asking what the current rate. So today is June 17th. What are you giving
have
out these
not
days?
looked at rates in the last week, so
Brian, what are the rates at today? Put it in the channel.
I've been on DC and in my own world with Coden, so I couldn't even tell you at this point.
But yeah, so expectations is key. So what should a borrower have expectations for the appraisal?
For the borrower side,
Yeah, like what should a buyer expect to come out of what is the purpose of the appraisal? So agents know as well to explain it. How can they explain it? And what time frame do we order it? What's going on with that?
right, so what we do in our process is once the disclosures are signed, it goes to our junior processor and we render services by a credit card and the appraisal is ordered. We have a panel of our appraisers that are in the Tri-County area and all 67 counties in Florida. And we render services typically within 3 to 7 days. We can expedite that and with a rush fee. It was taken longer when the frenzy happened and we switched AMC providers, and now we have an amazing company that we're working with. PRMG obviously has them on their AMC provided list, and they're rendering services in like record-breaking time. We just had a VA deal come back in like 3 days. That's unheard.
Amazing. So let's break that down though. Hang on. I want to break down. So would you say almost a majority of the time appraisals are always prepaid by the borrower, right?
Yes.
So an appraisal would not be ordered unless prepaid by the borrower.
What I do is if God forbid the borrower has something go sour and the negotiations don't turn out to be well and they have to go back to another house, my branch will pay for the next appraisal because I'm not going to have them drop another $500 on the appraisal. It's the right thing to do. So that's the way we operate. Some lenders are going to charge again for another appraisal.
Right. So, and then although you choose which panel of appraisers, you do not have control of who goes out and when they go out, other than when you submit the order and then it's in the queue, right?
It's a rotation on appraisers, so there's no conflict of interest. And yes, we do have a panel of appraisers that we work with, but there has to be more than 5 individuals, so that way it's not steering and you don't have influence of prices or anything like that.
And you really can't call them and say, can you show up today? Like you can't do that, right? That's out of your control.
No, you can give the information to the buyer's agent who can relay messages if there's delay or breakdown in communications, but all that's automated and you do not want to do. No.
Louis, I think you wanted to add something on this.
I have a great question for you, Anthony. I've seen agents that would say, hey, look, we want to do the inspection after the appraisal because first we want to see if the house appraised or not, etc. But then I go and I say, like, my counter for that is like, well, even if it does appraise and then you have cloth wiring, polybutylene piping, a bad roof, etc. So what's better? I really always want to give the right answer. So in your professional opinion, what is best, to do the appraisal first, the inspection first, or just do them both? Like, what do you think?
Honest to God, man, I would do the pre-listed inspection. Now that you mentioned it, I'm going to start drilling that in. I think you should do the inspection first. Why am I going to spend money on an appraisal report for my borrower and cross that bridge? But then let's play devil's advocate. Why am I spending money on an inspection and then an appraisal report? Because you want to know if it's structurally sound. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's a hard one to answer. Me personally, I would say do not skip the inspection report.
Or doing it out of order, because I think that the reality is, especially nowadays, people are agreeing to pay over appraised value. So I think it might even be a moot point. But when it comes to the property, unless you have a real gut feeling that the property won't appraise and there's no leeway on it. I've seen a few times where there's been, but you're not, the problem is to get that appraisal done, you're going to be needing a 15-day inspection period, and no one's agreeing to that these days. You know what I mean? So I don't even think that's a viable option right now. But I've seen people rush their appraisals to be done within the inspection period. I've seen listing agents require that. I think it's a great move on the seller side because you don't want to be renegotiating twice. Let's talk about it all at once within the same period of time.
you can't negotiate if you don't do the inspection. That gives me negotiation power. Oh, the AC unit needs to be replaced. Well, is it functional or not? If it's functional, we're good. I'm not replacing it. So I mean, that gives me as a buyer's agent leverage to negotiate. So I don't know. I'm trying to put myself in the consumer's shoes. Inspection is probably the key thing to do first. But then from a seller's side, I understand it. I get it. Then if I'm going to play that game, then I would do a pre-listed inspection, say, hey, here it is, it's done. We don't need to play that game. Let's just go straight ahead with the appraisal. Our appraisal contingency is usually less than 14 days. We're getting them back in 7. So technically I can get them, to 7. So I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but then again, we control a lot of the flow over here. So
No,
that's a hard question.
The inspection gives you an opportunity to correct issues too. Like, let's say there's not a pre-listing inspection. It gives you the opportunity to fix these things before the appraisal comes and then starts making things a lot harder.
You're going to screw up your process. You're jumping the gun to try to cheat the system to get to X. It never, ever, ever works that way. And now you've opened a Pandora box that you have. Now you need mold inspection. You delayed another 7 damn days. You got a roof inspection. We got to find a roofer. Good luck with that. I mean, you're screwing yourself, pardon my French. I mean, that's just not the right way to do it. That's just me. To teach their own. What's the next process? We were going over the process. You totally went down.
Yeah, we went down a rabbit hole from the side questions.
It was a good question though, man. It was a great question.
Yeah. So we talked about it has to be paid. There's a rotation. At what time frame do you actually order it or request payment for it? Because I see so many lenders, like we're a couple days before closing and we don't even have the inspection, the appraisal back yet. Like, what's the deal? What is the deal? So I get sometimes buyers don't pay for it, so it doesn't go out. So agents, make sure your buyers are paying when it's being requested. That's number one. But Anthony, do you have anything to share on that? Because that's super annoying for me.
There was an influx in business, obviously. And so all the AMC providers were overflowed with refi purchases. And I'm seeing drive-bys. Okay, yeah, streamlines, you might not even need an appraisal, but most cases you're going to need an appraisal report. And the concept here is that they had so much going on, they being the AMC providers, that's the third party that represents the company that is doing or conducting the appraisal. That's why you're seeing turn times. Our turn times were almost 25 to 30 days when rates were at 2.2. Everyone and their mother was buying a house at that point. So
right.
What did we do? I'm not just taking here for 25 days. I made an executive decision to switch AMC providers, and now we've got amazing service. So I can't say why is it being delayed. If it's still delayed, it shouldn't be delayed at this point. Things have smoothed out. It shouldn't take more than 7 to 10 days to render services on an appraisal report. If it's taking longer than that and you're doing a rush fee, that's not good business, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, I mean, but this was a problem before the rates were down. This was something I was seeing 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So I don't know, it just drives me crazy because we order everything. We order all our searches the first day. As soon as we get the contract, we order searches. Obviously that's different because a buyer should get their inspection before they pay their appraisal, get that done, and then knock out the next one, right? Do your steps in the process. But I'm seeing, people, just things falling through the cracks, buyers not being told you have to pay for it to be done. And the reality is when there is an appraisal contingency, there is a deadline, otherwise it's waived.
Yeah.
So if you're doing conventional, okay? Because the VA, FHA rider, there's no deadlines on that. But still, as a buyer's agent, as a closing agent, why are we waiting till the final minute? We shouldn't be, right? Because first of all, you're working on something that's never going to happen sometimes if you do it so late, right? So let's know about the problems early, let's solve them early, or let's move on. Why are we working so hard on these things, right? Same thing with long inspection periods. Luis, how long could it take to get an appointment for a property in South Florida?
For an inspection?
Yeah.
I mean, it ultimately depends. We have a fairly large team of inspectors, so we typically like to turn inspections around within 24 to 48 hours. I think more important than that is not so how fast could you get out to the property, is how fast you could turn around the report. And that, because you could have an inspector show up at your house today, but if it's taking 3 days to give you that report, now you're sitting there biting your nails in anxiety. So at least, I mean, we provide the report immediately before the inspector leaves the property. I know that we're probably the only guys in town that actually provide that service, but I do it just for the fact that people want it and people want it now. And that's why I think it's very important.
So you send the inspection report. I'm laughing because I just have a text from Brian who's saying we had a long time ago a loan officer that worked with us that sent up the report. I'm sorry, the processor that sent up the report to the underwriter. So that was a big mistake. But who do you send the report to? You send it straight to the loan officer?
The home inspection report is
the borrower?
To the buyer. So we send the report to the buyer. Remember, that's the person who's paying us. Our obligation is to the buyer. Now we send it also to the buyer's agent because they are the liaison in the transaction.
Okay. Okay. All right. What's the next question, Melinda? There was one other thing.
Well, there's a few things about timeline. So I want to, since we just spoke about the timeframes, I want to elaborate on some of these questions. So if you have an FHA or VA, there is no contractual deadline for the appraisal. It's just saying it has to appraise, and the buyer can choose to pay more if they want to. That's what's in there. Now, when it comes to, this is talking about the Florida as is contract and the applicable riders. When you're talking about a conventional, the default on the appraisal rider is 10 days before closing date. So you need to have that information 10 days before closing date. So that's that deadline. Now, if there's no rider at all and it's a conventional loan, so there's no built-in contingency, you really need it before your loan approval is up if you want to cancel based on that and really have your buyer protected. Okay, so those are the deadlines that you need to be worried about for your appraisal. For inspections, what I will say, obviously the default is 15 days. You can make it less, but what I will say is, guys, in this day and age, you shouldn't be keeping the defaults, right? 15 days is way too long. As Luis said, he can get it done for you. You can't be, 7 days should be the max you should be putting on your offers. And if you want to be aggressive, I would say go less. You have your inspector on standby saying, listen, we're just wrapping up initials. I'll probably need an inspection after tomorrow. What do you got? And like, where can you squeeze me in is how you should be handling it right now, because you don't want to have long inspection periods. You will get, all things equal, you will get surpassed, right? If you have two other offers, the same price, same loan, same terms, that it's going to be like, okay, well, where are contingencies? And what does that look like? So making sure that you minimize as much as the buyer feels comfortable with the understanding that we need to get it done real fast, right? So they got to be ready to move. Like all those memes they have right now. Okay, let's go when the house is on the market. Like that's pretty much the same thing when it comes to everything else, because with all the deadlines involving, because you want to minimize the contingencies as much as possible to get it through. So that's my point on deadlines. So, and it's important to communicate the deadlines with the professionals. You say, listen, my inspection, Luis, I know I have a short inspection period. I have 3 days to get this done. Can you do it for me and get me a report in time to have time to review? You have to communicate those things. Anthony, I have my loan approval with the appraisal. Like these are my deadlines in your pipeline. Can you make it happen? Don't wait till the final hour to ask for the extensions if you really need it. The reality is you usually can get an extension. But you can't be asking it at like 5 o'clock the day of the deadline, right? You need to plan ahead, like speak to your team and know what's going.
Every offer that is made, you should be correspondent with your lender and your inspector. That's so many. We're playing multiple offers. It doesn't matter. At that point, make 5 phone calls to your lender. Can you get it done? Is this time frame? The agents that send us business call me and they say, can you hit this date? What's the contingency period? That's good communication, because that collaboration is key in this market right now.
And that's why
we got 7 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I say that's why it's important to get the inspection done fast and get it done early. Why? Because you're getting those insurance reports. You know how many times I've seen buyers that weren't able to qualify for a property because everyone assumed the house had shutters and that they were going to get the opening protection credit, right? Then they do the inspection and there's 5 windows that don't have any shutters. They can't get the opening protection credit. Now their mortgage is $200 more than what it's supposed to be, and they can't afford the house. You find this all out early, early in the process. Better to find out now than later.
Right. Because
That's a whole top. Oh man.
that's a whole other thing. You know why? You know why that's so important?
Insurance
Because that property might not work, but another one will.
Yeah.
Right. So not right now. Sorry. I'm on the show. Yeah. So basically in conclusion, we can't be waiting at the final hour, because you put your buyer's escrow at risk, and they're a qualified buyer. They're gonna get a loan, just not on this property because of the conditions for whatever reason. So we need to make sure we protect, order early, protect that escrow, because yes, maybe this deal falls through, but if their escrow is protected, they'll buy another property. Now, if you lose their escrow, you're not losing it, right? The buyers need to take responsibility for what they're signing and what they're doing. That's number one. And teaching them that up front is important as an agent, as professionals. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the taste in their mouth that this transaction, and they lost $5,000 or $10,000. They may not have the money for the next one. And they may not only that, they may not have a good feeling about who they used for that transaction. They might not come back even if they do have the money to go to the next one, right? So protecting those escrows is important, being mindful of the deadlines and doing things early.
One more thing this answers your question, Luis. Inspection up front. I've had several occasions that I'll take the time with flat roofs to get the inspection report, to bring the report to the insurance company, and then to see what the premium is going to cost. Because if the premium is too high and the DTI doesn't work, you kill the deal. So now you put someone in the contract that doesn't qualify at that point. So that answers your question. Inspection needs to be first, man, because that's going to render a decision on a premium for your insurance. Especially if it's an older house.
Sure.
So hopefully that helps, man. That cheat sheet I want. I'm going to do that in the next 2 days.
I'll send you some points that could prevent them to obtain from obtaining insurance, and I'll email them to you.
Super important, super helpful. Thank you so much. So you guys, any final thoughts as we wrap up? Any final questions, that you want to touch on or ask each other, or what you got?
There's a question in here. In this market, seller are asking to full waive appraisal contingency. What are your thoughts on that?
The reality is if you're within your loan approval period, your lender can deny it, because if the property doesn't appraise, if you're within your loan contingency, right, Anthony? Like if the buyer doesn't have the cash to close, and because the property didn't appraise the way it was supposed to or intended, then the loan will be denied, right? Yeah. The thing is, you can't appraisals. If they're within the inspection, if they're within the period, that's fine. It's what happens if they're done at the final hour, which is what's happening.
Yeah, so it's just so, look, these are games, man. These are games, but we're always 5 steps ahead of these games. And you can waive the appraisal, that's fine. But what she's saying, Melinda, is you don't have the money, we deny them. Oh, what do you mean they had the money? Well, they didn't have a swing of 25,000. It's the lower, the less value. So here's your denial letter. So play the game back, man. Play that game and get those offers accepted.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. That's good stuff. Luis, where can people find your information? I see we put your earlier up, we put your information for Instagram. Where else can they find you?
So yeah, so on Instagram, we're at TruView Inspections. On Facebook also, we have our website, TruViewInspections.com. You could go on Google and research us too, TruView Inspections. So you could go on our website, you could book online 24/7 there. We have our YouTube channel too, which is the TruView Inspections YouTube channel. That's where all the videos that we post on Instagram, videos that we do, we put them there also for reference. And there's like a lot of very good nuggets that we talk about there.
I love that. This was such a good episode. Thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your expertise with us and our community. I think I learned a few things today, and it gave me some good reminders of things to discuss with my clients. So I appreciate you and your time. Anthony, another good show.
Share. If you like the show, this is a free show. Please take the time and share it to your peers, man. All right, please. Thank you so much, everything.
Thanks, guys. Have an amazing rest of your day. If you're catching this on a replay and you have questions, let us know. If you are a subscriber, you will get our cheat sheets, and we'll catch you on the flip side. See you at the closing table, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.